The Lord of the Rings Corsairs of Umbar expansion has been out for a couple weeks, yet I haven't played through the questing content in the expansion yet. If you need to catch up, I recommend checking out my recent videos on the expansion. But the short version is that with the Umbar expansion, I have been a lot more excited for Umbar and just haven't really been motivated to start questing, which begins in Gondor. Now, it's definitely not a bad thing to have post-war Gondor extended to the west, but I'm just more excited for Umbar. Essentially, the way it works is that I play games to have fun. So I am not going to do something that I don't want to do just so I can get to the place where I expect, at least, that I will have fun in LOTRO with the Umbar expansion. In other words, I'm not going to make myself bored in Gondor just as a grind to get to Umbar. But today, I actually have a plan to start the Umbar expansion content, and I am very excited for it, even though it does include some Gondor content, as we'll get to. So you will notice that I am on my Runekeeper starting the new book quest, The Song of Wave and Winds, right from the start with Book 1, Chapter 1.1. So I have indeed decided that I will be taking my Runekeeper through the questing content of this expansion. There are actually a few reasons, and the first is that actually this character, well, a different version of this character that was on the Anor server went through all the quests in Gondor, so he does have some connection there that just, I think, adds to my excitement to bring this specific character through this new content in Gondor. Another reason is that I have actually really been enjoying Runekeeper gameplay lately in LOTRO, and I have just been wanting to play my Yellow Line Runekeeper. And really, it's a great class and spec for landscape content. I will be turning the difficulty up as well, which I think should add some excitement to the experience. And there is actually a third reason, and it's because of crafting. So as you all know, a lot of the stuff with the crafting revamp was delayed with the expansion. That's part of why I haven't actually been motivated to quest through and actually enact this plan for quite a while, even though I've had it for over a week, I think, at this point. So one of the features that I was really looking forward to with the crafting revamp was that you would be able to gather any tier of material regardless of your actual crafting profession proficiency. So an apprentice prospector, for example, could go ahead and gather straight the Umbar materials, and same with forester, scholar, and all the such. Unfortunately, that part of the crafting revamp has been confirmed to be delayed, and we don't know at this point when they will get to it. Could perhaps be as late as early next year. And you may wonder how all this is relevant to my Runekeeper. Well, he's actually one of my more advanced crafters. He's not too far in Tailor, so I could actually quickly abandon that for Scholar if I even bother to go with Scholaring, but really it's because he's already decently far into Prospector, but pretty much caught up in Forester, and very easily I can go ahead and finish that off so I can gather Umbar materials. So he really is, outside of perhaps my Warden from Arkenstone, he is probably my best set character to craft in this update and gather more specifically, which I'm really excited to do once the full crafting revamp comes and we have updates for the Umbar tier of crafting. I'm really looking forward to crafting, which is a great thing about the crafting revamp, and that is still the case even if I have a really negative video coming up on the crafting revamp. So between this video and my first stream actually playing through the new questing content, I will have caught up crafting with at least Prospector and Forester, and potentially Scholar as well, so I can gather Scholar nodes in enemy camps. So really, with me not enjoying my higher level Mariner character all that much, the stars have just aligned quite well for my Runekeeper. Now, I did have some alternative options, which include actually my Beorning and of course my Warden. So you may be wondering, don't I really enjoy the Warden class? And I went through like my initial expansion experience on my Warden. Why am I not doing this on the Warden, the class that I like to call my favorite? Well, one is that prior to this expansion launch, I've actually been not too much in the mood for the Warden for some various reasons, but I just hadn't wanted to play him all that much leading up to the expansion. But I actually had a lot of fun on my Warden in the launch of the expansion for non-expansion reasons, as always that was. I had a lot of fun playing that character, but ultimately, what I decided with my Warden is that I was going to try something new. You all may remember I was experimenting with, say, power leveling of sorts my character, but the reason to power level wasn't actually to get to endgame, it was to discover what was all new in the expansion, because that's something I really enjoy, is just discovering the new stuff. And typically when I play through an expansion, I kind of go through it slowly, to be honest, and it just takes me a while to actually see everything there is. So I thought I could get a little bit of a head start and get to that discovery element by leveling that character faster. Well, it turns out Umbar has 0 content for level 150 essentially, and even some of the end-game systems that we had in previous expansions have been more or less neglected in Umbar, whether that's purposeful neglect with something like the delving system, or perhaps unintentional neglect. But ultimately what this meant is that my warden character has already served his purpose as far as the discovery element goes with the expansion content, so I just didn't really find him fitting to be the one to quest through, especially since he is now way over leveled for a lot of these quests. That seemed like a perfectly normal adventure to me. But hey, Freeport actually closer to where my quest takes me. So before I talk more about my warden, I should fill you all in on what my plan actually is. So you may notice as I am questing through book 1 here that I'm not doing any side quests. Yes, technically this is part of catch up to actually get started with the expansion content, because you have to do old content before you can start the expansion, which is another one of the annoyances with Umbar. That was something that was quickly fixed in Gundabad, but it looks like they are not changing in Umbar, or at least for Umbar, because it's still not even in Umbar either way. But setting that aside, I am just going to be doing the book quests and all the Gondor related content and skipping the side quests. The reason I decided to do this is because I still want to get the story of the Songs and Waves of Wind, even if I thought the first little bits here, like what I'm doing right now, is not the most exciting. I'm still interested and invested in the story, and I want to see where it takes me, and it's also because you have to basically do all these early parts to do the Umbar part of the story content. But one of the big differences between here in Gondor and in Umbar is that once I get to the Shield Isles of Umbar, I plan to start the side quests, because again, that's where I expect to have most fun, and that's where I want to get to the earliest. So really, I'm thinking that this plan will maximize the fun that I have in this expansion while still getting some of the intended Gondor content that leads up to the Umbar content, but while also generally maximizing my time in the new area where I actually most want to be when I am questing. And you may be wondering about some alternatives. So one thing that I did consider was actually on my warden just questing through the side quests in Shield Isles of Umbar and in the Cape of Umbar, as well as the city Umbar Barhabel. But I decided to go against that because I felt like I would have been missing a lot, A, by already being high level, and I would at a certain point stop leveling even though I have lots of quests left, which really isn't as big of a deal in LOTRO as it used to be, at least to me, because level is fairly irrelevant, I find, in this game, but that's a conversation for a whole nother time. But I was really thinking that getting the book quest in LOTRO is often necessary to get the full story and full experience of an expansion. I think that was the same in like Gundabad, a recent expansion, for example. So I again basically reiterate that this is at least in part to get through the actual book and story that is in the expansion. So after I finish book 1 here, in my next LOTRO stream, I plan to enact this plan by picking up with book 2 and starting the proper Corsairs of Umbar expansion content. I still don't know how frequently I will be playing to start, but at the very least, I really am excited to actually get started with the expansion and start with this plan. Let me know what you think of it and if you have any thoughts on the expansion in general. And with that, I will wrap it up here. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, everyone.